So who doesn't want to know about monetizing the YouTube economy? That's the question. I mean, and these guys are experts. So we're gonna learn a lot here today. This is a great topic, and we really do have a fantastic panel to talk about specifically how the music industry can monetize the YouTube economy. And here to moderate is Hugh Mcintyre, and if you haven't read his stuff, you should. He covers the music industry for Forbes as well as other publications. And I'll let him introduce the panel so I won't steal his thunder, or they can introduce themselves. But Hugh, thanks for coming out, and you can take it from here.
Absolutely. Hello. Is this on? Is this... Yeah? Should I just yell? Hello. There we go. So again, Hugh Mcintyre. I cover mostly the music industry, primarily for Forbes. So if you see something about charts or YouTube, etc., it's probably me, as well as other publications. And I want to focus on these 5 people who actually know about this probably a little bit better. I'm actually going to let them introduce themselves, and they can explain kind of what they do. And
I'm John Raso with HFA. I am the VP of Client Services, and I sort of oversee the team that administers the National Music Publishers Association's agreement with YouTube, which represents several thousand music publishers, from very small individuals to some of the biggest independent music publishers. And when I say represent, it's really about administering the data of the publishers, the associated sound recordings, delivering that to YouTube, as well as handling the the content management system, CMS, at YouTube for disputes and data cleanup. Yeah. Jeff.
Well, hello there. I was going to make the bad joke, Brendan, but I'm not going to do it. Okay. My name's Jeff Price. I ran a record label for about 17 years called Spin Art Records, put out bands like the Pixies, Echo and the Bunnymen, Clem Snide, Apples in Stereo, etc. I helped to launch a company called INDMUSIC, the first online digital music store. That was like 1996, 97. Oh, then, like, we're old. Yeah, we'll bond. That means you got to see the Brady Bunch in prime time, if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so after that, launched a company called TuneCore, which grew to become the largest music distribution company in the world. And about 4 years into that, launched a global, what's called publishing administration entity within that. The venture capital group, as you hear all too often, pushed all the original founders of TuneCore out about 2.5 years ago, and just watching this thing drive off a cliff. After that, started a company called Audiam, which gets copyright holders paid for the digital use of their music.
Hi, my name is Jen Miller. I'm the co-founder and COO of a company called Audiosocket. Not sure if you guys know this stat, but there's 100 hours of content published on YouTube every single minute, which is a lot of opportunity for artists to sync their music to those videos. So we represent independent artists for sync placements, specifically to digital media, and YouTube is one of the largest platforms where all of that media gets published. And then we just launched a patent-pending technology called License ID, which goes the distance to actually track copyrights and help artists figure out where their music is being used, how, and then collect on those uses.
Hey everybody, my name is Brandon Martinez. I run a company called INDMUSIC. We do royalty collections on emerging platforms such as YouTube, SoundCloud, Dailymotion, handful of others that we're working on right now. What that means is that we essentially do channel strategy for artists, labels, and their content, helping them build an audience, build engagement on that content, and also rights management in the back end in terms of other people using artists and labels' music without their permission, making sure they get paid for those views. We're most well known for Harlem Shake, so if you've ever seen any of those fun videos from last year, we were the company that was behind the monetization of all of that. We also work with other rights organizations like Audiosocket, like TuneCore, helping them to better monetize their content as well.
Hello, Craig Bruck from ICM Partners. I'm an agent in the concerts department. I focus on pop and rock music, as well as I work with a lot of artists who have developed and continue to grow on YouTube and other social platforms. So some of the artists I work with are Fifth Harmony, R5, Scott Bradley's Postmodern Jukebox, Us the Duo, and a bunch of others.
So I think a good place for us to start is most of the people that I speak to about making money on YouTube, they think it's as simple as you put up video, someone puts ads on it, and all of a sudden, your bank account gets filled. So can somebody tell me why that's correct or wrong, or is it that simple?
I mean, I think it depends on who it is that's posting. So if you are a kid in your room and it's an original song that you wrote and you own all the rights to and you own all the rights to the visuals, you certainly have to build your audience. But if you own everything and you have an AdSense account and you're all set up on YouTube, sure, that is definitely an opportunity. However, if you have any sort of agreements, whether that's a publishing deal, you've licensed an album away, maybe you're signed to a label, even if you distribute through TuneCore, CD Baby, any of these other music distributors, then that probably won't be the case. And that's because there are rights organizations that are in the back end making sure that not only does your content monetize, but also that other people that are using your materials as it gets more popular is also being monetized. And it's all sort of one jumbled mix.
I find YouTube's freaking confusing, right? I mean, it's this clusterfuck of just what the hell is going on. There's two ways you can make money on YouTube. One, on your own video. You take your 3 fingers, you film it, you upload it to YouTube, you own the right to that, you tell YouTube to put an ad on it. If lots of people like watching 3 fingers wiggling, you'll start making money. You can read this in the LA Times. YouTube will pay you 55% of the money that comes from advertising. They'll keep 45%. And by the way, there will only be money made if the person watching the video watches at least 30 seconds of the commercial, or the entire commercial if it's less than 30 seconds, or if they click on the banner or text ad. So if that doesn't happen, there's no money. So that's one side, your own video. The other side of the fence, what these guys were just talking about, other people's videos. So imagine if we could just sit here, and every time somebody else's video, the billions of videos up there, every time those were watched, you got paid. That's the area I focus in on, because that's where I see the scale. I'm not into driving everyone to that one video, but take this video with the 3 fingers, put the song I Will Always Love You into it, as performed by Whitney Houston. Video before that had 1 copyright, now has 3. And that's where it gets confusing, right? So YouTube can't put an ad on this unless all 3 copyright holders say yes. And the 3 copyright holders are the video itself, the sound recording of the video, which in this case Sony Records controls because they hired Whitney Houston to sing it, and as you probably all are aware, or not, Dolly Parton divorced her husband in the 70s and wrote a song called I Will Always Love You. So she wrote the lyrics and melody. For YouTube to put an ad on that video now, all 3 have to say yes. And to do that, YouTube created a very complex system with contracts where Sony sends over a list of all their music and then looks for videos and sets a computer preference to either take down the video, do nothing, or put an ad on it. So does Dolly Parton. And when all 3 line up on the slot machine and they all say, yeah, it's cool, then an ad goes on it, somebody watches it, it generates revenue. So those are the 2 ways you can make money. To answer your question, you got to have a video that people watch. Just like you have to create music that people want to listen to. If you make a piece of art that causes reaction, it takes off, you generate revenue. If you create a piece of art that doesn't cause reaction, it doesn't. But what's cool about YouTube is it increases the number of lottery tickets, right? Because you can have, as you know, with your production catalog, you can have somebody create a video of tasering someone using your music in it, and people will watch it for the taser, not for the music, but you get the benefit of that, or vice versa.
It's also, it's a big change for the industry. Historically, it's like you can't use it until those permissions happen. Now, the video goes up and you've heard the expression, whack-a-mole and tracking down those videos and finding out what rights are in it. And that's the real challenge. It's now forcing rights owners to be much more proactive in chasing it down through, the safe harbor of these different services. There's some protections there. So I mean, we talk about 100 hours every minute. It's a near impossible task. So it becomes a prioritization game in tracking down high-level videos. And it's really, it becomes a challenge of the economics of what you pursue, what's worth to pursue, what's the artistic decisions of someone who, I just don't want my music up there, or I want it up there, but no one's allowed to monetize it. And now there's serious money that's starting to be tossed about because of the huge volumes in there. So that becomes a new set of decision points. And all of this goes through essentially a click at a time. And so sort of automating this has become like the big challenge. And in all honesty, since YouTube has decided to build this, create this sort of a feed of everybody putting in data into it, where it's shaken out all the historic issues of clean data in our industry. And so now that's become the biggest challenges. This sound recording contains which composition called "I Will Always Love You," because titles aren't unique. But the person who put up the recording is just some kid who thought it'd be cool to do skateboard tricks and put that song on it and doesn't know that. And so he puts it up, and literally every time someone uploads something, they check a little box that says, yeah, I have all the rights. So every time someone uploads it, they're essentially violating that copyright. The Content ID system has a thing called Melody Match, which will tag something and keep any existing relationship and tell that user, hey, this isn't yours, you said it was yours, I'm going to tell the person who owns it it's yours. I then say, yes, this is mine. He writes back, no, it's my video. And then I have an email with a kid in his mom's basement explaining to him what Jeff just explained about, Dolly Parton wrote that song, and Whitney Houston's singing it, and I know or it's even you singing it, and you even wrote in the title, here's my version of "I Will Always Love You," and you're trying to claim it's all yours, and a lot of times that becomes a little contentious conversation, and I win and I get my nickel, so. It's a real challenge to figure out what to do.
And then they tweet online about how small my penis is.
Well, yeah. Then bang comes the Facebook, the Twitter. Like, who are these? Because you have that wonderful message that you may have seen. Due to a copyright claim by the Harry Fox agency. And it's just sort of like now I fear going to one of those video conventions where all the stars are and without a bulletproof vest.
I'm sorry, I was just getting tangential, but those same stars, how would they like it if I took their videos without their permission, made money on it? Right? I think if you create music, it has value. People want to use it, that's fine. Just pay for it and license it. If you don't, go make your own fucking music. Oh yeah, it's really hard, isn't it? That's why music has value. Just license it and pay for it. And YouTube created this really cool system where it'll do all the work for you. No one wants to take the video down, right? We all want the videos up. That's where the money comes from. Please use the music. Just, when you click the little button, there's going to be 2 seconds of what's this, but it's all okay.
I mean, I would say that I think that it's less the YouTube stars. I think that there is an education that's beginning. That's why we're here. That's what this is all about. It's about people just don't understand copyright. Like, copyright law hasn't been updated in decades. It is not relevant to today's content ecosystem, or even on the music side, because you look at, as we're talking about YouTube right now, we're now working with SoundCloud and Dailymotion, these other emerging platforms, where we're dealing with all kinds of other issues and working on new things. So we've got this figured out, but the rest of the industry hasn't even caught up to this yet. But then you have these kids, right, these basement musicians that are literally tomorrow's stars, changing everything already, and so there's this whole other world that's happening while we're still sitting here debating the same old things over and over again. And I will say that, like, the bigger stars on YouTube, at least, I think that they are figuring that out, because there are people from traditional entertainment coming in to help everyone sort of understand this, and that's what our job is, to help shape this next direction of the industry.
Okay, first of all, I really hope you didn't have to work with a skateboarding kid who used "I Will Always Love You."
I know. As it was coming out of my mouth, I was trying to keep the.
You were realizing that'd be a terrible video.
But, yeah, I'm like, what would you be doing to that? I don't know. Bathing your child. I don't know.
That kid has never heard that song. Yeah. And then second, we're talking about this huge process, and you actually end up dealing with these people who are violating it. I mean, isn't that just an unbelievable waste of time? Not waste of time, but doesn't that drag everything?
Sure. No, and that's where I was saying that you have to pick your battles to a certain extent. Right. But at the same time, I'm doing it on behalf of someone else who actually deserves that money, and so now it becomes I can't make a decision saying, okay, it's only $1,000, right? That could mean the difference between a hot meal and a cold meal, right? It's like, so that becomes a very difficult pattern judge. So we attempt to put the tools in the hands as much as possible to all of the individuals to do that. But education is a huge piece of that, because the problem shouldn't actually ever get that far.
So, I guess one of the things that we should be thinking about too is, I don't know if everybody in the audience is on the side of publisher or on the side of artist, but if you actually want to publish something on YouTube and you want to make the money on it, you can do the right thing and license the music in the first place. Unfortunately, YouTube, as probably a number of you have experienced, Content ID as a fingerprinting system does still catch that copyright, and it may make a claim on that copyright, in which case if you work with either of these guys, they're great and they'll immediately release it for you. But you can make money on your own published media on YouTube by clearing the rights in advance. And that's the business that I'm in, is actually helping people do the right thing at the beginning of the process so that they can legitimately, monetize their videos on YouTube.
By the way, the music industry here is getting a free pass. And what I mean by that is, music industry is about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Or if you're somebody like me that doesn't have the talent, I try to hang out with those that do to get some of the bleed off. Right? I mean, that's the way it works. YouTube, Google, Amazon, Spotify, Rhapsody, Microsoft, these are technology companies. These aren't music companies. The two don't speak the same freaking language. So YouTube created a giant database. And what we're supposed to do in the music industry is put information into the non-relational, non-SQL, big data database in the cloud, where they apply business logic, and you deliver XML metadata feeds via automated FTP authenticated drop, and if you haven't gone to sleep yet, you should. And the music industry is like, what the fuck is that? We make sex, drugs, and rock and roll. We make culture, or we're publishers. We license. We don't build iPhones. But the music industry has to dump their data into a computer database. And guess what? The data from the company in Spain is different than the one in England, that's different than Universal, that's different than Warner Music Group, and on it goes. And you've got this cluster mess in the database where the information isn't even correct, to the point where you can watch a video of Michael Jackson performing Billie Jean, and the person that wrote the lyrics and melody to Pump Up the Jam is getting paid because bad data connected it. And it's very unsexy and it's very unexciting. But this is how money now flows globally from all digital uses. The mess that exists in the YouTube database exists everywhere else, because it's all coming from the same people. The good thing about YouTube, at least there's a system that you can go into with transparency and fix the problems. Screw finding the videos. Get the data right first, then move into finding the videos.
Yeah, I was going to just continue that a little, is that the, a record label, historically worked with the artist to create the recording, and so they know quite a bit about the creation and the actual underlying composition, whereas these other services wanted to build a really cool interface for people to listen to music and then go out and license that content. When the information we generally get is, here's the ISRC number, here's the name of the artist, here's the name of the song, and here's the name of the album title. At no point there's anything actually unique enough to find out what composition it is, and certainly the person sending it to me doesn't know what it is. So HFA has an 87-year history of getting those licenses, so we know that Warner Brothers Records actually issued this, and it was this composition, and we're able to use that relational database to say, okay, so when we get that number again, it's this composition. And so as a result, that's where what sort of drove the initial deal with the NMPA and HFA, and the deal was the fact we had all of this relational data in place. And of course, it's not 100%. It's not every song, it's not every recording, but it's so much farther ahead of everything else. And so that was sort of the beginning of that. But now, and we do heavy validation on that. Like anytime we get a song from a publisher, or any source, we validate with the publisher of record that is this correct. We only take certain feeds for sound recording information, whereas it was a little Wild West with YouTube in the beginning, and different sources saying what the publishing was on something, or vice versa. And as a result, I would argue that it really hasn't gotten to a decent place until maybe this summer. So, which is just ending.
So I think you all have a lot to gain and lose. The people you work with, you're saying it's not up to me. It's real money sometimes. Yeah. I mean, this sounds like it affects you and all the people you work with much more than YouTube. I mean, have you ever come across YouTube kind of not really caring, or, it's not their top priority? I mean, how does YouTube feel about all this copyright infringement?
I would say that I think that there are definitely different divisions within YouTube. I would say that's probably the biggest part, is that as we're all sitting here working on metadata and ingestion and all these super complicated things, and I mean, there's all different processes. Even that is beginning to get standardized and that kind of thing. So working with YouTube on that kind of thing, that's a different team than the actual music department that you're actually working with, who have the relationships with different labels, let alone when we're talking about these claims of different issues and things like that. It's actually up to you. The onus is on you to go and resolve those conflicts and disputes and merged assets and all of that kind of stuff. So I think that it's like working with any giant organization. It's complicated the more you kind of weave along. Finding the right people to talk to, and I mean, even just like-minded individuals that are working to clean up this mess. So I wouldn't say that they don't care. Definitely not. They know that it's something that they have to work on, especially as the new streaming service is on its way any day now. It's definitely a priority for them. But it's just, our industry is literally changing, underneath our feet. And so I think, again, it's all of our jobs to work together to make the system right.
I think Jeff nailed it when he said that YouTube, it's born of technology. I think oftentimes tech innovation and copyright law in particular don't really go hand in hand. I think they often come into conflict first. And in the case of YouTube, and I think they would probably tell you otherwise, but I feel like it was kind of a classic case of oh shit, we got to build something quickly. It was like Content ID was born out of lawsuits. So I think of it as a reactionary technology. I think the music industry honestly has a long way to go in terms of innovating technologies to protect its own interests. Mm-hmm. I think that YouTube's Content ID, their interests are not aligned with copyright owners. And so they've built, from their own, technology, they've built a system that they did their best to kind of make sense of the rights, the copyright world, and the music world, which is not easy to make sense of, put together Content ID, and now it's sort of like the trickle-down effect. So I think, Brandon's point is true. You've got to find the right people who will listen to you at YouTube, kind of navigate that. I am sure that to some extent, it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I do hope they're trying to perfect the system because there's still a long way that it needs to go so that everybody, I think, has sort of a fair opportunity on the platform, and that rights owners are properly compensated so that publishers are properly recognized as having licensed their music. But yeah, sometimes it feels like you're kind of talking to the wall. Yeah.
Just added, actually on the other side, sort of the artist side of all this, because I'm not in the rights world. Artists actually, I think there are a lot of artists who, I wouldn't say don't care, they obviously do care, they do want to get paid, but they see YouTube as they see it as a platform to promote themselves. So, and again, I don't work at a label, so I don't know the actual data and the facts of how much, a million views, I think someone said was $5,000 to $8,000. I don't know if that's true, but artists, I think for the most part, are using YouTube to promote themselves, and they're looking to make money by selling music or selling concert tickets from, building an audience. So I think there are a lot of artists that, as they do want to get paid and they want to make sure all the publishers are getting paid, but they're using YouTube as just a promotional tool, and I think that's, I think a lot of labels are using that as well. Like, how do we get this video to 1 million? 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. Yeah. And I don't think there's so much money, again, I could be wrong just because there's so many people to pay, but for me, it's, how do you get these artists to use this to develop an audience and then make money elsewhere? Again, my world is concerts, develop an audience through YouTube, a worldwide audience, and then go out and, hopefully make money.
Well, let me ask you, but so concerts obviously go up the next day. There's a real, every kid with a cell phone shoots a video in public. Do you do any sort of, there's an additional monetization piece there. Do you exploit it? Do you put your own up? Do you have a channel? What is your engagement with YouTube?
I mean, every artist is different, but I think lots of artists are using YouTube. I have an artist just announced a tour yesterday. They made a YouTube video. Again, I don't think they're going to get 20 million views from it. So, but they're using it as a place where they could send all their fans just to put out content and put out information. Again, it's a video sitting on their couch, so it's I don't know if there's any money there. If they'll get 10,000, 20,000 views. But I think the one interesting thing is, And I sometimes get some of the data. I can't get the exact data of, you have 20 million views of a video. Where in the world is it? And you could, sort of break it down if it's Brazil or Philippines, which seem to be huge markets, and then use that to take a guess, a guesstimate, is this a market where we really have an audience, and can we go there and play and hopefully sell tickets?
See, here's the cool thing. You've got 20 million views of a video. Why don't you, just throwing out an idea. Yeah. I understand. See, artists use it for marketing, promotion, tickets, T-shirts, ancillary, but think about the fans. If you could get those fans, the people that watched your video, to use your music and their video, you don't have to do anything. Those will make you the money. Say, hey, here's a free download of the song. Please use it in your video. We're going to pick one video a week that we like. We're going to tweet out the one we like, and we'll send you a free T-shirt.
I think the problem with that is that a lot of these artists, again, so going back to the music side of the YouTube stars, right? They just don't know, right? Again, it's this new class of musicians, and oftentimes they're just not educated. It's not that they don't care, especially because a lot of them will do original content and then they'll do covers, and it's all sort of the same thing to them. But then as you start to explain, yeah, hey, other people are actually using your music. Literally, fans across the world are ripping your video down, re-uploading it with subtitles or overdubs or whatever it is. And so as you start to explain that and how the back end of what we do works, they start to get it. And so there's a bunch of panels that I've done with a bunch of these YouTube musicians, and they do care. And they are starting to realize that there is an opportunity to use the analytics to build and to use the fans and these other tools that are available. But that's, again, I think that's the problem, is just this education.
Like, and that's why this panel's so great. I mean, we work for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, 9 Inch Nails, Tom Waits. We work for Graham Nash, Amy Mann, Tori Amos. On and on and on. And one of the things we're beginning to communicate back to either the talent agency or the management company, when you go on tour, tell your fans to take out their phone, film you, and upload it. Guess why? Because then I can go on your behalf and put a little ad on it. And that video of you performing Danny California will now generate you revenue because your fan took it and uploaded it. And you know what? Nobody wants it down. It's totally cool. Tell them to do it. Tell them to do a cover contest. If you've written a song, get your fans to cover it and put it on YouTube. Why not? It'll generate you revenue. It'll create engagement. And one of you two said this before. The old industry was about music consumers got music. What are you supposed to do with it? Listen. Maybe you make a mixtape, right? That was it. Now when you get the music, what does the music fan do? They use it. And then the RIAA freaked out. You're not supposed to use the music. You're supposed to listen to it. You're file trading it. You're mashing it. You can't frickin' do that. Don't make YouTube videos. Well, the tide has turned. Oh my God, imagine if we can get 300 million people to use the music and we can monetize all of it. The light bulb went off. That's what's so cool about it.
I think we just have time to touch on one last thing, and I just want to ask, you brought it up, the new streaming service, that's where everything is going, and YouTube is obviously jumping on that. I mean, is that going to change things at all? Are we not going to have to kind of worry about this as much as they move into streaming, and that's maybe a different pay?
No, definitely not. No, I mean it's all.
It's not getting easier.
It's all connected. It's about the seamlessness of enjoying content, right? It is definitely kind of bringing it back towards if there's all this content out there, making sure that you are actually enjoying the best version or the version that it is that you're looking for. And so being able to, if you want to watch a cover version, there's that. If you want to watch the live version, there's that. If you want to see the album track from there, but there's no video available, there's that. You want to watch the music video, there's that. So I think it's, and it's about, as you use, I don't know if anybody here used Chromecast. I actually think it's one of the best things, like, it's been invented in a decade. It's so easy to just share and to watch content, and so it's about doing that. We've all been talking about, you're on a flight and you're watching something there, and then you get in the cab and you watch it on another device, and then you get home and you throw it up on your TV. That's what it's all moving towards, and specifically with music content, as a large portion of youth culture is listening to music on YouTube. Well, great. They're also traveling and doing other things, so how can they just make that available? It's really them listening to their primary audience.
The significant change for me is the fact that, user-generated content on the free ad-supported service needs to have all the identification take place before that video itself is generating any revenue. Everything in the subscription service has it. There's already a pool of money that it's being split against across. So I still claim it, but I know what the value is, right away. So.
And keep in mind, by the way, the system that exists at YouTube, the music industry didn't create, YouTube created. So if you create a video and you upload it, and you get pissed off because you're not making money off of it, That's not the music industry's fault, right? There's 3 copyrights there. One is claiming the composition, the lyric and the melody. One is claiming the sound recording. There's a third one. And it's between you and YouTube as to whether or not they're going to pay you for that. We, or the music industry, or the artist, has nothing to do with that. And that's another one of the misnomers that's out there. Right? That's their business logic. That's their business model, not ours.
So are you referring to like signing up for the partner programs? And
I'm referring to what frequently happens is the kid on the skateboard will upload the video and will be making money on it. And then they'll get one of these things, you're using copyrighted material without a license. And then the next thing they know, they're not making money on it. And so who do they blame? They blame the copyright holder, the music industry. We didn't do it. We just said, hey, YouTube, could you give us some small percentage of the ad revenue that's coming in on this video from the use of our lyric and melody? That's all we're doing. You know, what YouTube wants to do after that is up to them.
I want to open it up to questions if anybody has anything they... Oh.
I'm just going to whip it. Yeah.
Are these actually working?
Oh.
So I'm just going to steal the mic from you. Sorry. My name is Andrew. I'm a founder of a tech startup that's in the music space. But I guess my question is more about, so it sounds like the economics of, I guess, licensing and then getting ads delivered on YouTube videos for music sort of content seems to benefit labels, people who are at such a scale that it's, they're going to get a lot of money rolling in. I guess I'm wondering, on the other side of that economy, when you're an artist starting out and using YouTube to sort of establish your brand and establish your audience, what really direct ways you have on YouTube to monetize what you, well, hope to make a living from?
I'd say it's 3 things, right? I'd say, like, number 1 is definitely your own channel. That's where you want to build your audience. That's where you want people to know when they come to your channel that is the official hub for your content. 2 is the back end of what we've all been talking about a lot, is the people using your content in their videos as well. And for that, you have to sign up with one of our services or make sure that whoever your music is licensed to is handling that portion for you as well. 3 is using a company like Audiosocket to make sure that those fans that do properly want to license your material have that option to them as well. And there are services like Audiosocket that will work with just starting out artists, just starting out bands, so that people want to find that newer stuff, basically. I'd say it's part of that engagement as well. Keep an open dialogue with those fans also of just like, here's who you should contact. Please use this music, but contact this person or talk to me or whatever it is that you set up for your pipeline. Make that information available to people and encourage those actions as well.
I get that. I see that. And I guess my question is more, I'm trying to wonder, like, if Kickstarter is great for establishing yourself and getting things set up and getting actual volume, like a large amount of dollars for a beginning act, why can't YouTube be the same sort of place? Why can't they drive incredible conversions with like lots of dollars for things like, The
majority of Kickstarter programs don't generate a lot of money. The majority of music that gets released doesn't generate a lot of money. Anytime in history, it's always a small percentage. I wish I could wave the magic wand. I want artists to get fed, I want them to pay rent, and I want more music in my life. But the reality is most of it doesn't cause that reaction. But when it does, and you get Gangnam Style, or you get what Brandon was referring to, thank you, the Harlem Shake, or we have an artist, Uniform Motion, out of the UK. Some couple in Portugal did time-lapse photography of the wife being pregnant that Yahoo decided to put on its front page, and it bumped up to millions of views over 2 days, and they got a hefty check out of that. If you can find a way to create reaction with the art, and you're in the system, you will get money back from it. And if the reaction is large enough, it will be a lot of money. I just want to make sure you get all of it.
And is that part of your question and so how do I get in the system? I mean, if by just going to YouTube and signing up and controlling all your rights, you're in the system. And then you go to one of these guys if you want to be even more proactive and, I don't know what varying degrees you guys work with as far as small to larger or label, whatever. And so, and I keep going back to the data. It's just you need to make sure that it's all registered properly. And there's various, as a songwriter, you should, if you don't have a publishing deal with a larger organization, you still need those songs to be in the HFA database for any digital service that we represent, whether you're in our YouTube deal or any of our streaming clients. And the way you could get in it is through, like Audiam represents those rights, right, and delivers them to us. Song Trust within their relationship with CD Baby. TuneCore has TuneCore administration piece. There's a lot of opportunities. You could come straight to us and get a publishing online account and register your song. It's just that data needs to be somewhere for that matching to take place, because at this point, there's a lot of the future business is about it being used and you discovering it being used rather than the other way around.
But I beg you to get educated on copyright. This boring dribble, just please, it's where the money flows and how it all works. By the way, YouTube just launched a new thing, which we have yet to use, but basically it will allow you to put an advertisement, for lack of a better word, a customized ad on someone else's video that's using your content. So if you're a band, and let's say you got 10,000 videos that are using your song in their videos, this new feature allows you to put an ad on those people's videos towards buying your music or a t-shirt or a tour date or anything like that.
It's not a great tool right now. Sorry? It's not a great tool right now. It's really
just launched. We haven't even used it. I just saw the little video on it.
Yeah, thanks. That's really what I was wondering about. Thank you.
One last thing, too. Under specific videos, you can have a link to buy the actual recording in digital music stores. The click-through rates are pretty low on it, but at least it puts a little
YouTube actually has a lot of helpful videos and stuff about all of this stuff. So, I mean, really, ironically, go to YouTube to watch out how to use YouTube.
Watch the ad.
I have a question. The skateboarding kid, when he finds out he's got it copyrighted, why doesn't he have, and he does say he doesn't want ads on his video. Why doesn't he have the option just to buy a license?
But then he can't use the other copyrights then, because he doesn't get to decide how what I represent gets used or not, right? You're saying so
why can't he just pay? Say, click here, pay. If you go over 20,000 views, pay again.
Well, he could, but then he has to call up Sony Records and say, hey, that recording of Whitney Houston, can I use it in my skateboard video?
Why can't Sony Records and YouTube get it together to offer that option to the kid?
No, there's a lot of parties working on trying to make that happen.
I don't understand why you're trying to make it more complicated. It is. It's simply right. So it's the you want to pay not to put advertising on it. That seems. Well,
you're talking about covering a song, right?
I'm just talking about any use of copyrighted music. At the moment, your only option is to get it taken down or someone else to plonk an ad on it.
No, the option is don't take it down. That's the whole point. Leave it up. And so YouTube's trying to create a system that does it. Think about it this way. There's a TV show that comes on, and it has music in it. Can the TV show, Lost, the TV show, just go and use music without getting a license? No. Right? If they did that, they could get sued. Now, let's go to YouTube. The TV show goes up on YouTube. Can you sue? No. Well, you can, but you won't get any. There's no compensatory or statutory damages because the law protects it. So the kid can't get sued, number one. Number two, it's YouTube that's doing the infringement, not the kid, because it's YouTube's server that's showing the video. Right? So number three, YouTube said, we want this video to stay up. Hey, Sony, is it cool if this kid uses your music in his video? And if Sony says yes, the video stays up.
But I think what you're saying is you just want to have the ability to say, I'm going to pay to use this song. Why can't I do that easily, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, you can do that easily working with companies like Audiosocket, and what you're going to get is probably not your most famous, they're not famous tracks. They're emerging artists is what we call them. They're the kind of bands you're going to see in your local venues, see playing at South by Southwest. It's not going to be your Whitney Houstons, but there are parties working on trying to streamline the copyrights of famous content. It's just a tedious, painful process because those rights are held by so many different parties. So that's, unfortunately, right now, I wouldn't say it's in sight for famous stuff.
You can do your own recording of it. I don't mean that meanly. Seriously, if there's go do your own recording and then you can use it.
Related question about Twitter's announcement that they're going to be allowing for instant buy transactions right off the tweets, and they have some big artists that are going to be selling off of that. How do you see that maybe being the next level of what this is, even though it might not necessarily be video-based?
Download sales are decreasing as the world moves to an on-demand streaming environment. Unless Twitter wants to get in bed with a pre-existing entity that provides on-demand streams or create that themselves, the only thing they can link back to is somebody else's place where you can buy the music or stream it. Now, if that can help sales, I'm all for it. The way it impacts that is, though, conceivably more revenue for the master holder and the lyric and melody holder.
About selling other products.
You mean like T-shirts, ancillary
Yeah.
items?
Or third
I think it's great.
Hi. I have a question.
I'm going to steal the mic, if that's okay. Just for a quick sec. I'll just be one quick shameless plug and then a question. I'm Bill Bloomer. I represent Keek. Hopefully some of you have heard of it. If you haven't, in the last 30 months, we have generated 70 million young adults globally through our social video network. We are taking on an influencer and a celebrity model, not unlike what you've been talking about up here. My question is for a brand like Keek that has a global footprint so quickly and is growing so quickly, dealing with the rights issues and all the celebrity issues beyond just the promotional element that I think, Craig, you spoke about with regard to the value that the celebrities see primarily in it. What's the panel's recommendation on the best way to approach you guys and the industry as it relates to this international footprint versus just a country-by-country scenario? With Keek, we get about 7,000 Keeks per minute globally uploaded onto our platform from everywhere from South Africa to Saudi Arabia to the US. And stars are being found. They're being found by people like yourselves and management companies. You mentioned YouTube, 100 hours a minute. It's awful tough to get discovered there right now based on that kind of clutter, right? So if you guys can expound at all on how you would suggest something like a
It's an incredible challenge. I mean, the rights are pretty much different, or there's a different organization in each territory that represents them, and to a certain extent, you could go to, obviously the big majors frequently have worldwide rights, but even then, you have to find the right place where they're controlled. And in many cases, like we mostly just deal with US rights. So that's all I could help you with. So you could, a lot of the major territories have a society where certainly for the publishing you could go and do rights, but that's even breaking up in Europe, and there's withdrawal rights and individual. Right now you're in the middle of an evolving economy, and no one thought worldwide. 10, 15 years ago, the internet is worldwide, and it becomes an incredible challenge that will probably evolve as people take on new rights. Consolidation.
It is a super challenge. I mean, 5 Seconds of Summer was discovered out of Australia on Keek, right? And they're keeking 4 times a day. They don't get paid a cent from us, right? They just do it, to your point, Craig, to promote the band, right? To talk to their constituents and do all these things. So we really haven't had to get into this conversation yet with a band like that, or teenage boy band out of Australia. Pretty soon they're going to get savvy enough to realize that they can get paid for all of these uploads and all of this distribution. But there doesn't seem to be one centralized point within any part of the industry.
YouTube
right now
doesn't even monetize in every single territory.
And there's significant traffic. I mean, Asia, India. I mean, we're seeing huge amounts of volume, and even stars emerging within those cultures that are endemic to those. So I was just curious if anybody on the panel had any view on a global perspective to that, but it sounds like there really isn't one.
Well, the digital music services have to be willing to go direct with copyright holders as opposed to go through aggregated middlemen. I mean, that's it, and they won't because the cost to do that is too high, and the margins suck. I don't agree, by the way, I don't want to get contentious, but I don't agree with the concept of clutter. All that clutter already existed. The only difference in today's world is it's available to be found if looked for. Which
it's just a little harder to find it when you have that much volume.
I don't agree. I think in the old days you couldn't even find it if you wanted to because it wasn't in the ecosystem in the first place.
It's a good problem to have. There's no question about that.
Sorry?
I think it's a good problem to have, but it is certainly a problem. Well, thank you.
Well, guys, we're out of time, but I wanted to thank the panel. Hugh, thanks for moderating, and thanks to all you guys. I hope this clarified everything for everybody.
Yeah.
I feel totally confused, but no, thanks for trying to clarify. I know it's a confusing world out there, so.